All right. Hello, everyone. Glad you all joined us again for another 15-minute fix where we are giving you personal and professional development tools on the go in 15 minutes or less. Today, I am joined by Miss Kimberly Robinson. Kim, wave to the people. And Miss Shyra McMurray. Thanks for being here. Kim is our process expert, and you'll hear from her in a little bit, as well as Shyra, who has been in talent acquisition for almost 15 years. And so today they are giving us their expertise on how to successfully land an interview. I know that a lot of people are excited about this topic. They've been asking about this topic because we know right now there is so much going on in this changing workforce and in these critical times, professionally and personally. So we wanted to bring you all this topic to give you some hope, give you some insight. There's an article that I came across recently on LinkedIn, and it's by one of the LinkedIn managers. And they were giving an interesting statistic that said, on average, a job posting or a job requisition receives about 250 applications on average. And so from that 250, maybe 5 people, at least in the first round, will get an interview. And then from that, only one person will get the job. So those odds sometimes can sound a little bit scary, but that's all right. We're going to help you today in this 15-minute fix, so don't worry. Also, another important kind of statistic around this is right now the unemployment rate nationally is at about 10.2%. I actually thought it was a little bit higher, but I'm glad it's not, but about 10.2%. So we know that there are a lot of people looking for jobs right now, and that's not even people who are considering job transition. So we know that this is an important topic for many people, and especially in our community, unemployment is disproportionately affecting a lot of people. And there's often a lot of disparities, even in the hiring process. So let's jump right in today. And we're first going to kick it to Kim, who's going to give us a little bit of background on the process. Kim, what are we going to do to land these interviews?
Thanks for that, Kasha. I think one thing going into the process of looking for a job, whether you're transitioning or unexpectedly out of work and looking for a job, is to understand what the entire process looks like from the beginning. And I think that serves 2 purposes. Number one, it'll increase your chances of getting through the process to help obtain the job that you're looking for. And then so that you're not derailed by any type of denials. Just like Kasha mentioned, that statistic is pretty jarring. Out of 250, maybe 5 get an interview. So just having that expectation up front about what that process will look like will help keep you motivated throughout the process. As you're considering jobs to apply to, you definitely want to cast a wide net to allow yourself the opportunity to be seen by multiple companies. If you're looking at different industries, depending on what your job function is, I think that is something to take into consideration. So you want to apply to lots of jobs, as many as you can. And if you're currently unemployed, I would recommend setting a routine about how you go about that every day. And then don't stop applying. You want this to be a consistent process until you land the job that you're looking for. And so you don't feel like you have to settle. Really, there's lots of opportunities out there, but as Kasha mentioned, also lots of people looking, so you definitely want to set yourself apart from other candidates. Throughout this process, you do want to come up with a way that you can track your progress and results. Most jobs these days do have some type of online portal. So whether you are keeping track of jobs within that portal or you're keeping emails that you receive from the response from your application. You can certainly keep track with those. If you're a spreadsheet person like I am, that may be an effective way, but you definitely want to have some way to keep a radar on the jobs that you're applying for so that you can continue to follow up. One thing that I think is common that we all know, but it's worth repeating, is you really want to target how you're setting yourself up for success with your cover letter and your resume. That is the first impression that employers are going to get about you before you even get to the point of the interview. And you don't want anything within your cover letter or your resume to derail them from actually taking a second look and wanting to take that next step of calling you to actually set up the interview. So that includes things like making sure that there's no typos, ensuring that you update your resume and cover letter to reflect the experience that is highlighted within the job posting. Lots of considerations there, but definitely an important step to setting yourself up for success in this process. You want to find a way to follow up with each application, especially around the jobs that you are particularly interested in. So whether, again, through your tracking process, if you're following up either by checking on that status or if you're connected directly with the recruiter, follow up on those applications to ensure that you stay visible and on top of mind for these employers. Also, something to consider is the time frame in which you apply to the job matters. So if you're applying on different platforms, sometimes they tell you the posting date, I would say in most cases, and even on LinkedIn, they tell you down to the number of hours it's been posted. So definitely understand that getting in first is going to be key. Sometimes they don't have the capacity to look at, let's say, all 250 resumes that are sent over for that position. So you want to be in the first number. So if you have a particular company or position that you're following, keep your eye out and get your application, resume, cover letter in and get it in early. Last but not least, I think it's important to understand that you should not be discouraged throughout this process. I'll circle back to what I said in the beginning, which is that if you understand the entire process, there's less chance that you will be discouraged by getting those denials or not getting timely responses in the way that you expect to. So stay steadfast in this process, but make sure that you find a way to disconnect from it at some point and just kind of get your energy up a little bit, whether that means walking outside if you've had a long day of applying or interviewing. Just really stay on course, but make sure that you're not derailed by getting discouraged if it's not going exactly the way that you expected. So we're excited to hear from Shyra now. I know as a talent acquisition professional, she has a lot of great insight to offer us here. So she's going to give us some additional tips on this process as well.
Yeah, so what are employers really looking for, Shyra, when hiring managers have a stack on their desk? What are they really looking for to set one apart from another one? And what are they not looking for? I think that's what we're talking about also.
Definitely. Kimberly did a really great job of setting me up. I'm going to really reiterate some of the things that she's already discussed. So attention to detail is the number one thing that's so important, not only for your resume, but also for your cover letter. Like Kimberly mentioned, the cover letter is your introduction. That's the first time they're meeting you. So you want it to be crisp, you want it to be to the point, and you want it to be specific and set for that job. So it takes a little bit more work, but you want to make sure that every job you tweak your cover letter, every job you review and you tweak your resume as well, okay? That is key for being selected, and it can also be a thing that keeps you from being selected. I mean, I've had hiring managers completely disqualify someone because of the typos, because, you know, one of the key functions of the job is to be detail-oriented, and if you can't be detail-oriented with your resume, then that's, you know, that's not a good thing, right? So it's very important. It's also really important to do keyword matching. Keyword matching helps a lot with being selected to let you stand out from the crowd of resumes. As Kasha mentioned, 200, that's about right for my experience as well. Each job could have 200 or more, depending on the type of job it is. If it's entry level, it could even have more. So keyword matching is really important. Once again, it takes time to do that for everything that you apply for, but it is very helpful. A lot of organizations use Boolean searches when they're looking through pools of applicants. And basically a Boolean search is just them typing in keywords that they're looking for. So, you know, if in the job description, it mentions that they want you to have experience with a certain type of software, a certain sort of, you know, skill set, then you want to make sure that you highlight that in your resume. And so a lot of times what I tell people is you can have that experience, but maybe in your resume, you worded it a little bit differently. So go back to your resume and make those tweaks to match those keywords that they've used in the job description. So I always advise people, this is super old school and they'll probably hint at my age, but I always print my resume, right? So I have a hard copy and I compare that to what is online, right? And I go back and forth and I'm looking for words that are repeated a lot of times. And then I'm looking for that connection on my resume. And I'm like, okay, I have had experience doing this, but I didn't word it that way. Right. And since they've repeated that word a lot of times, it's clearly important to them, right? Mm-hmm. So I'm gonna go ahead and make that adjustment in my resume so that it matches the wording that they've used. And then when they do that Boolean search for, you know, I don't know, Outlook, Microsoft's, you know, suites or PowerPoint or maybe, SAP or some sort of system, you have that listed. The preferred qualifications are really important too. The preferred qualifications are standardly that all the pieces that the unicorn applicant has, right? So when I meet with the hiring manager, I'm going to ask them, okay, what does your perfect applicant have, right? And everything that is under the preferred qualifications standardly is what they want. Now, don't be discouraged by that. I don't want people to get discouraged by it, but just know if you have those skill sets, make sure that you highlight that in your cover letter, because that cover letter is a lot shorter and more compact for them to read. And so they'll see that in your cover letter and they'll be like, oh yeah, I want to look at their resume in a little bit more detail so that I can see, if it's a good fit. Your resume as well, you should keep it as tight as possible. And what I mean by tight is don't make it too wordy, because as Kasha mentioned, there's 200 applicants, right? So you want to, if you can, stick to like a bullet style. Hiring managers prefer that, for you to use bullets to notate your experience. And I know that style only works if, depending on your years of experience, right? If you don't have a lot of experience, it might make your resume look a little bit more fuller to use like paragraphs, which is fine. But when you start getting a lot of experience, it's better to use bullets because it makes it kind of short to the point. And when I'm on, resume 100, I appreciate that it's short and to the point and I can just glance and look for those keywords, right?
Shyra, is there a preferred number of pages for a resume? Should people
one page?
Okay.
One page. They prefer for it to be one page. And I know that the more experience you have, it's going to be, a little bit longer. And then depending on the industry, if you're in higher ed and you CVs, I've seen them like 20 pages, which that's kind of standard for something like that. But try to keep it, like I said, as short as possible. They're wanting it to be as fast and quick when it comes to the reviewing. And to touch on another piece that Kimberly mentioned, apply as soon as possible. When you see that job, apply, because sometimes the hiring manager will list how long they want the job. Most organizations have some sort of policy or procedure associated to like how long they're required to have a job. So the minimum might be 10 days or 15 days. So as soon as you see it, you want to apply, because that means that the hiring manager will see those applications first, right? And so you'll get first dibs at the job, or being seen by the hiring manager first. So that's really important, okay? And then I think a turnoff for hiring managers as well sometimes can be when you have a lot of gaps in your work history, right? So making sure that if you have gaps, making sure that you've prepared an answer for those gaps, right? Like, so if you have a year in between jobs, coming up with like a staple kind of answer, because they're going to ask about it. So you want to have a prepared response or answer for dealing with those sorts of questions.
Great. That's great. Thank you so much, Shyra. I appreciate it. And Kim, those were absolutely great tips, because we know that, again, this topic is important to a lot of people who are either in job transition or looking for the first time, early career, and just during this time in general. Maybe some people have had an unfortunate situation and now they're having to transition. So we really want to prepare you all. So let me give you guys a source and a little bit of homework and some continued reading beyond today. So the book that actually Shyra recommended for us today is by Gerald Radigan, and it's called ACE: Superior Interview Skills to Gain an Unfair Advantage and Land Your Dream Job. I'm excited to go check that out. So thanks for that, Shyra.
Yeah, I like that.
And your challenge for this week is going to be have a professional, if possible, look at your resume and cover letter, an extra pair of eyes. No typos, right? That's the takeaway from today. No typos, exactly what they're looking for. You really use those keywords. So thanks again, Kim and Shyra, for being here today. And we'll see you all next Tuesday with some more great personal and professional development tools for this period of quarantine and beyond. Have a great week. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, y'all.